quite an audience. You're used to this. We don't normally see this, but when we're on camera, we don't normally have a crowd. Welcome to Web Summit, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, this is awesome. Wow, huge. I didn't expect this coming here.
From a Formula One champion. Now, Nico, you've won 23 Grand Prix, a World Cup title to your name, and now a tech entrepreneur. You're invested in Formula E, SpaceX, Lyft, and what three words? Are there similarities between the quick decisions you'd make on the track to effectively set yourself up for a win or for a title as to the ones that you're now making to set yourself up as a serious tech player?
Yeah, I mean, the Formula One world really is the most extreme form of needing to make quick decisions under pressure. So really, I learned so much from my life in that environment there, and I can use a lot of that now in the business world. It's really possible to transform all my learnings there. So it's really useful. And no, I look forward now in the next couple of minutes to give you a bit of insights on the stuff that I really picked up in my sport about this topic.
So there's something similar about hairpin corner and tech investing?
Yes, very much. A lot of it really is in the preparation. As a Formula One driver, yeah, you're pushing the boundaries all the time. And the most important thing to help you make that right decision under pressure is all the preparation that goes into it beforehand. It's a discipline going into it, the details, yeah. It's marginal gains also, yeah. Every little thing counts. And eventually, if you put it all together, you'll make more and more right decisions. And that's really where I focused on.
Well, Stephen, let's hear from you. It's probably less obvious to the audience that you are also a lead foot, but it's with the same adrenaline and purpose that you drive Tripadvisor. I gather you had a post-it note on the door very early on saying, "Speed wins." Why is speed important to you and the culture at Tripadvisor?
It's absolutely incredible how important it is for a company like Tripadvisor, but pretty much any other company in an industry, in the internet industry, in an industry that is as fast-paced as the one that we're in, that we be able to make our decisions quickly. We have a lot of options in front of us. We have a lot of resources to be able to do that, to accomplish many of those things. But the choice of which ones we do, based upon a lot of data in the system, the answer is get them done and get them done fast. We're going to be left in the dust if we're not able to continually go fast. Speed wins was the short phrase of that.
You are a sprawling company now, 3,000 employees, present in 49 markets. And when you talk about scale like that, we know a lot of big tech companies really struggle to have that entrepreneur, that startup spirit still in their companies. They try and bring founders in, they acquire businesses, keep some of those founders, the founders eventually leave. I think you all know what business I'm talking about. But how do you keep that fast-paced spirit alive in a big company like yours?
Well, part of it is actually that organizational structure. As we would acquire different companies, we have some amazing assets in a business, The Fork. It does restaurant reservations throughout many cities in Europe with great discounts. We kept the management team in place, based in Paris and now Barcelona. And that team is able to innovate and drive their business forward with a great connection with Tripadvisor. We try to share our best practices. When a company is acquired, we often talk about offering a tool set of tips, techniques, technology, best practices, and let the acquired company come and pick what works for them. And then I want them to innovate in ways that maybe are a bit foreign to Tripadvisor based in the US.
Nico, there is a whole universe of technology companies out there to invest in. It's pretty obvious when you walk around Web Summit how many startups, how many tech options there are. Even if you are particularly interested in mobility, which is part of your background, how do you narrow down the field in terms of what you want to invest in? Even with Lyft, you know, there are rivals, Uber, Careem, and they're just the ones we know about. So what criteria, what decision-making do you use to decide?
I base a lot on trust, actually. So I've really, in this time now after I retired, built up a trusted inner circle for myself of people who are absolute experts in analyzing in a way that I will never be. And this really being able to trust them helps me a lot in my decision making in the end, yeah, because because, I mean, they're the best at what they do. So that's one part. And the other part is really looking at the people behind the company. Yeah? As we all know, when we're looking at startups, sometimes even more important than the idea is the people behind it. And we saw that as well with Tripadvisor, because your idea initially was not quite the right idea. Yeah? But since you were awesome founders, you managed to pivot it into the huge success story that it is now.
Exactly. I mean, to draw out that point, when Tripadvisor started, we actually had a very different business model. We still wanted to help travelers. We were still in travel space, but we quickly realized that that just wasn't going to go anywhere, and we had to pivot. And the funny part that isn't actually written all that often is we pivoted once and then twice. The fourth time it worked. So sometimes we had to keep trying.
You've gone there on founders, so let me bring up Elon Musk, because you are an investor in SpaceX, and clearly it's been quite a disruptive time. All the tweets or the erratic behavior from Elon Musk and a securities fraud case based on comments he said about taking Tesla private. Has that damaged some of your thinking around what he's able to execute in SpaceX? Has it made you rethink the investment?
No, not at all. I mean, he's always pushing the boundaries. He's always on a bit of a knife's edge. But I have a lot of confidence in him. And anyways, to be honest, already now, what he has done for all of us and for our planet is so huge. If you think about the mobility space, it's really all down to him that now every major manufacturer in the world is pushing forward with electric cars. He is the guy who forced them to accelerate the deployment of electric cars single-handedly. Yeah? This is an incredible feat. And electric cars itself are not the complete solution to more sustainability, but it's the gateway. It's the gateway to opening up the possibility of more renewable energy, feeding the electric cars, and that's going to be the big progress then for us towards sustainability. So this is really, really huge, and I think we can thank him a lot for that.
Let's talk a little bit more about decisions, because something links both of you, and that you've had very strong growth stories in what you've been doing. Stephen, first with you creating Tripadvisor, but then selling out very early in the process, becoming a multi-millionaire when you could have been a multi-billionaire. Nico, you winning your big title, your Formula One title against Lewis Hamilton, yet he's gone on to win even more titles again. You know, did you finish Formula One too early? Are these the worst decisions you've both made, or are there worse ones?
Plenty worse ones in one's life, right? How could anyone possibly complain about creating something like Tripadvisor, winning a world championship, and say, oh, but there could have been more? We're driven by different things. We wanted at Tripadvisor to really be able to help the next billion travelers with amazing personalization, great inspiration, be able to follow their friends, get trusted advice, because that's the next generation of travel as we see it. Plenty of challenge there, and I'm blessed, Tripadvisor is blessed to be able to continue along that journey, even if our corporate history was we got bought and then we spun out. That doesn't matter. We're helping so many other travelers.
You stepped around the worst decision there.
I am blessed by having a life that has not been plagued by terrible decisions. Certainly, selling Tripadvisor when we did, it could have gone differently, but I just don't look back with any regrets there. I'm driven for what I can do next, not looking in the rearview mirror.
You're planning the next trip.
No, for me it was absolutely the best decision, because I had a clear target, and my target was to win that championship once. And to exit in that way, it just makes me very, very happy. Even now, I'm completely fulfilled. So this is going to carry me a long way in my life, I think. So that was the right decision. If I can quickly touch back onto maybe some of the learnings that I had in my sport in terms of decision-making under pressure. As I said, most of it is in the preparation. And what I really learned also was the importance of focus. We see that a lot also in the business world, yeah? The big achievers, they have this ability to focus and get rid of all the distractions, yeah, that are in our lives, left, right, and center, with social media, with this, with that. Get rid of it all. Focus really, really precisely on what you want to achieve, and dedicate really everything you have to that. At the same time, though, remember, better life, better performance. So at the same time as focusing, make sure you keep that balance. yeah, and keep that balance with private life, friends, relaxation, because if you have that balance, it will help you perform much better, and it will help you make better decisions on a regular basis.
Well, here's a scenario. Let's talk about real life for a lot of tech executives and a lot of business executives. You've got multiple themes happening, and that's not even just on the geopolitical level with trade and different world events. Just take it to tech. You're contemplating how to bring artificial intelligence into the business. You're trying to think about AR, VR, big data,
what a mess.
Privacy concerns, regulation, how to make profits, whether you should IPO. I mean, how do you focus on one thing when all of these things need to happen at once if you want to progress the business and not be disrupted?
Well, that's where great leadership comes in as well, yeah? Because you need to build and have trust in all your employees. I'm sure you were a great example of that. You must have been to create that success, because you can't handle everything yourself, yeah? So you need to delegate. Delegating is extremely important. The art of delegating is very, very important to have success. So delegate, have trust, and then focus on what you need to do as a leader or whatever your role is.
Stephen, do you want to weigh on this? Because things are obviously much more complicated now than when you first started Tripadvisor. Is that a fair comment?
Absolutely. Delegate, inspire, trust, as you were saying, and make it really clear the set of things as a business you're choosing not to do. Every tech business I know of has plenty of opportunity, different areas to expand, and sometimes I honestly feel the biggest decisions or the most important decisions that I make in conjunction with the team are the things that we are choosing not to do this year, but will reconsider next year.
Do you want to give us an example of that?
Well, just think about the traveling community, right? We could look at augmented reality and say that's the way people are going to travel in the future. We could invest a ton right now, today, in voice recognition to drive the ability to talk to the app to tell me stuff. There's a real pain point in being too early in those decisions. And we feel right now we would be too early to really make big bets in those technologies. They will come. Predicting when, well, that's what I count on the team for, and we're not doing that yet.
I want to touch on data privacy. It's been a fast-moving issue. No one really cared, and then the Cambridge Analytica scandal broke with Facebook. You've had tech executives hold on to Capitol Hill to give explanations. New data protection rules here in Europe, still up for debate in the United States. Are regulators too slow to react?
I'd say yes. In general, regulators have been a little slow to react. I think the bigger challenges with the internet today was what some of the other folks were talking about in terms of the ability for anyone to say anything, complete lies, instantly spread. You've heard a bit about that already, but I would argue that that's a much bigger challenge that I hope governments and regulators would tackle before sort of continuing down, or at least in conjunction with the data privacy issues.
Nico, tech regulation is the elephant in the room when it comes to investing in technology. We've already seen on Wall Street, the NASDAQ closed out October in correction territory. There's been a violent swing south in the valuation of technology companies. At what point do you feel like there is concern for you as an investor based on a changing landscape around regulation? How do you factor that into the decision-making when you're saying, I'm putting all this money on the table, regulators could take some back?
Oh, that's the best example for don't put all the eggs in one basket, because those are force majeure, more or less. I would love to call them like that. You just can't control. Sometimes you can't even foresee. So spread your risk out, because there's always going to be things like that happening. But to go into more detail, I'm not well enough positioned. Maybe you could take that answer into a bit more detail if you want. Or
I think in general, industries have shown that less regulation is better until the companies just get too big and too much of a stranglehold in a particular area. Telcos in the US way back. Certainly there's a good argument on the search engine front today. And I do think it is worth careful examination, but gingerly.
You're saying Google's too big?
I think Google, as a dominant search engine, does wield too much power in most countries, yes. Whether they choose to use that power carefully or not is up to them, and they've had a mixed record.
We've got a couple of minutes left. I just want to get into what you're both up to at this point. And Nico, you've invested in a couple of big names, and we've mentioned some of them. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what 3 words, basically an idea to carve up the world into 3 meter by 3 meter squares to identify location? Now, we know habits are hard to change. There's governments as an obstacle. What are your hopes for this investment?
Yeah, so I'm really focused on impact investing. It's sort of a new challenge that I've taken on, which I'm really enjoying, that challenge of getting those investments right and also managing to have an impact. And what 3 words has been one recent example. Phenomenal company. They've divided up the world in 3 by 3 meter squares, and each square doesn't have an address anymore. It just has 3 words. So it could be television wall white. That could be this 3 by 3 meter square. So it's incredible because so much more precise, yeah, and so much more simple than our address system that we have nowadays. And for Tripadvisor, actually, that could be something very, very useful. So I'm happy to make a deal right after behind the stage. And the problem, though, is that, of course, to change consumers' way of doing things, as you said, that's such a mission. So probably you have to go via the big institutions, governments, and go that way, that they set it as a default navigation system. I think that's the way it needs to go. And at the moment, it's proceeding really well. It's exciting times.
It's very interesting to hear European trying to tackle governments when you consider where we are at in Europe. But anyway, we could get bogged down in that. Minute 30 left, Stephen. Let me ask you about what you're up to, because in the background, you were working on some changes at Tripadvisor, and there's almost a soft launch going on. Do you want to give the audience a bit of a clue as to what the future
Sure, the soft launch is about to become a very real launch, November 13th, global launch of the new Tripadvisor. It's really cool because it brings together. Right now, travelers have to go visit 20, 30 different websites to actually plan that magical weekend getaway a week long. And now on Tripadvisor, they'll be able to find content, real great inspirational information from the brands they trust, beautiful videos, social influencers, and their friends. And if we think about what really makes a vacation, a trip special, it's getting that extra insight from all the different trusted partners in what's now your travel feed. So I'm visiting Lisbon, and now I see these inspirational videos, what to do, where to stay, where to eat, from my friends, all in one place, taking the pain out of planning that trip and delivering it for you.
That's 6 days away, and you're sitting here so relaxed.
I've got a great team back home.
Delegation.
He's delegated.
You've delegated awesomely, yeah?
The true secret to all management success.
Very good.
I also want to talk about authenticity, because you had a very significant win in the courts in Europe recently, trying to tackle some of the fake reviews.
Yes, we put a guy in jail for writing fake reviews in Italy. It was fantastic. We worked with the prosecuting attorneys in order to deliver the evidence, because it is illegal in most countries. We care a lot. And of course, the 450 million users of our site every month count on trusting that information. And so we do a whole lot to make sure it's accurate, it's fair, it delivers all the opinions safely.
We've got a flashing light in front of us. Nico, you used to flashing lights. Give the audience a takeaway message. What do they need to think of when they think about speedy decisions?
One last thing would be follow your instincts as well. Usually our bodies have a very, very strong ability to tell us what the right way for us is, and learn to listen to that and follow that more often than not. I think that's something that can be very, very valuable in life, and I'm trying to learn that myself more and more.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, and thank you to the audience.
Thank you.
Nico, Stephen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.